Hi, and welcome to this first episode in this movie project. My name is Key, and I'm a doctorate in biomechanics for power athletes. I'm a sports teacher, personal trainer, nutritionist, and a chiropractician, to mention a few. I'm also a have a magistrate in engineering and economics. With me today is Tommy Becke and Victor Enfjord. In this first episode, we will go through the backhand, just basics, starting from the beginning. In future episodes, we will handle more advanced details and techniques. But in this first episode, just purely basics. Um, in future episodes, we will also have more lighter subjects, doing some fun rounds, doubles, just joking around, mixing up with more heavier, deeper subjects, having an interview with a couple of female disc golfers planned in the near future. This channel was mainly supposed to be for Swedish players, hence us speaking Swedish. Uh, but since there has been a lot of comments from foreign players asking for an English version, we decided to make this voiceover. I hope you'll understand that this is pretty new to me. I haven't done much editing or filming. Uh, Neither have I done any voiceover, so please have that in mind. Now we are going to the local tennis club to begin the backhand basic clinic.
Tillsammans med Tommy Bäcke och Viktor Enfjord ska försöka på ett pedagogiskt sätt gå igenom backhand.
Ja, backhand som sagt var. Och vi ska börja från grunden.
Here you can see me talking about some things I often hear. First, I often hear about the long and straight reach back. And what is that? This is my power pocket. How far can I reach back without turning my hips? There you can see it's short reach. But if I lean back, if I really reach back far, what happens then? I lose my balance. What can we do? We can use our shoulders, our hips, and our feet. Another thing I often hear is about the reach back is that we're supposed to walk past our arm. And what that does is we are turning our back towards the throwing line.
Min fotposition, neutral, ta ut en höftbredd, en och en halv höftbredd.
Taking out 1.5 shoulder width.
Sen kommer jag också bredda ut den till en axelvidd.
And a shoulder wide stance. Both my feet are 90 degrees neutral. This is how far I can reach back without turning my hips or shoulders. First I'm turning my shoulders and then turning my hips. That's a decently far reach back. Can I do something else to have a farther reach back? I can put my left foot in a 45-degree angle, and I can turn my right foot about 10-15 degrees forward. That gives me a larger range of motion. So now when I turn my shoulders and hips, I have a long and straight reach back. About 45 degrees angle in my hips. My left arm follows to separate the upper body from the lower body. Hips always leads to rotation. Shoulders arm follows. You want the arm to do as less as possible. The more you use the arm, the more wiggle room you will have. First, straight arm, turn your shoulders and hips. Hips always lead the rotation. Shoulders, arms follow. If your hips starts the rotation, shoulders follows, and you will have an automatic power pocket. Your eyes follow the hips. That gives you room between your chin and your shoulders. Moving forward, taking our stance, make sure to put your left foot in a 40-45 degree angles backwards and your front foot, right foot, about 10-15 degrees forward. That gives us more room for the hips to rotate. How hard are you supposed to hold the disc? Firm, not too hard, not too soft, just as in ball golf. Straighten your arm, lead with your hips, the arm will follow. Lead with your hips and pull. Lead with your hips, always hips, then shoulders, then arm. Full motion. In disc golf we have something, well, in most of sports that involves rotating, we have something called laws of angular momentum. And what is that? I'm trying to show it with this stick. Angular momentum is like rewinding a clock. Big movement. This is just like to reach back. We're winding up the clock. And then we're going to break the laws of angular momentum. Some positive things about breaking the law actually. We're going to make ourselves smaller, as we do when we're rotating the hips to hit the power pocket. We're making ourselves smaller to increase the rotation speed. And the movement you see there with me rotating with a stick, does that look familiar to perhaps Eric Oakley? Wind up the clock. So now Victor Enfield is with me and we will try to see what he has learned so far. First we will let him take his stance, checking the angles of his feet, about 40-45 degrees on the left foot and 10-15 degrees on the front foot. The reason we do this with the right foot is it's because it's easier to open up our hips. In tennis we can see 25-30 degrees just because it makes it a lot easier to open up the hips. The better we get in doing this, the more we can move towards 90 degrees in our right foot. What's important to know about this is what 90 degrees or perhaps 95 degrees does is put a lot more stress on your knee. Therefore I say about 10-15 degrees forward, at least for beginners or intermediate players. I'm showing here what happens if I lock Victor's foot with my stick and he has his feet in 9 degrees and snapping out his hip. That's a lot of stress on the knees. showing you again, but letting him rotate his foot.
För att göra det här lite lättare för till exempel oss med intermediate eller kanske till och med nybörjare så vinklar vi ut foten lite grann. Om du då gör samma höftrörelse igen när jag låser
10-15 degrees forwards, and I'm locking his foot again. Takes away some stress from the knee.
Så därför gör vi det här lite lättare för oss. Då skulle vi vinkla fram det som i tennis och så skulle vi göra samma sak igen. Så det är en bra sak.
And there you can see me doing, like I said in tennis, about 25-30 degrees forward. Virtually no stress at all on the knees. But we'll take some kind of middle route and 10-15 degrees.
Precis. Om du nu bara sträcker ut armen så långt du kan utan att vrida kroppen.
What I'm doing now is letting him find his reach back. Finding the synchronization between hips, shoulders and arms. The separation and timing between lower body and upper body. This is to loosen up his hips. Most people are too stiff. Hips is everything. They are essential for throwing smooth, for throwing far. This is me showing in an over-exaggerated way the long reach back, leaning back, losing his center. Back to it again. The hip starts moving, shoulders and arm follows, and you'll get an automated power pocket. It's hard from the beginning, it's a lot of timing, coordination, but we're all beginners at some point. You can see him struggling with timing between finding the right synchronization with his upper and lower body, the weight shifting between the right foot and the left foot. This is something I think all beginners, intermediate players should do more often. Standstills, going back to the basics. The reason we often do full run-ups, throwing drivers, is because of our ego. Don't be afraid to start from the beginning. I mean, Victor is he's about just below 900 rated, but he throws far. He throws about 450 easily. Now we're back here with Tommy Becke, and we are going through the same things with Tommy as I just did with Victor, so I'm not going to say too much. This is just repetition, but a new student. Let him take out the stance, finding the angles, finding the timing between the hips, shoulders and arm.
Vinkla bak den 45 grader ungefär, så vinklar vi fram den 10 grader, där är lite flyt, lite mer, så flyttar vi bak den en halv deci.
This is yet again about 45 degrees on the left foot, 10 to 15 degrees on the right foot.
70-30 tyngdpunkt på bak i benet. Det nu Tommy ska hitta är det att kunna vinkla sin höft. Och då ska vi se här om man kan göra det. Då kommer jag ta lite grann på dig Tommy och se om du kommer få in din höft här. Höften.
Loosen up the hips and finding the hips. Tommy's a little bit stiff. This is just pure weight shifting. And then you can see the hips turning and leading. Remember, hips always leads the rotation. Shoulders and arms follows. Hips As I said before, it's like winding up a clock, and when you start turning, boom, your hips are popping.
Vi börjar med neutralt läge. Disken i power pocket. Sträcker ut armen så långt bak.
Now the timing to reach back, power pocket.
Tom har lite problem med en viss rundning i kroppen, så nu ska vi få honom att dra en rak.
Straighten out the arm as far as you can. Hip starts turning. The arm and shoulder follow. The hips turning back, shoulder and arm follows. And you will have the power pocket full automated. You're not supposed to think about the power pocket. If the hips leads the way, the shoulder and arm will follow, and the power pocket will just be there.
Tommy behöver tänka på lite grann nu, det är att han måste spänna bålen lite grann.
In the power pocket, the hit box, if you like to call it that, you're supposed to explode. Therefore I hit Tommy, give him a little clap on his belly, see if he's firm, tight, core muscles. Difference here is I'm talking about that follow through. You're way too curious about looking where the disc is going. Decent throw.
Nej, och det är det som är problemet när vi pratar timing. Allting handlar om timing. För varför ska man börja ta en full ansats? För nyckeln är allting sitter i det vi gör nu. Spelar ingen roll hur lång och fin.
Talking with him about that curiosity, looking up too early.
Och den här positionen som Tommy har nu i fötterna.
Your eyes want to be on the disc in the hitbox, the power pocket. Lead with the hips, shoulder and arms follow. There you can see he has the same problem as Victor, leaving his left foot dragging in the ground. He also says he has no idea where the disc is going, and that is why we practice this, not showing with the cameras where the disc is going. That's not important. What we are training here is timing, movement, finding the timing between upper body and lower body. And here I'm showing what I meant with the curiosity. In golf and tennis, if you look up too early because you're curious where the ball is going, you're going to miss. Because you're not looking at the hit. Power pocket is our hit box. If you look up too early, you will get a rounding, what we call rounding in disc golf. Power pocket, hand and disc between hand and stomach. If I look up too early, I will turn my upper body and my hand will move in front of the disc. What that makes is either an early release or a late release, and I have to compensate for it. So most likely it will be a spike hyzer or an anhyzer, because I have to lean my body forwards or backwards. Eyes on the disc in the hitbox, throw, follow through, and your eyes come up. Your eyes follow your left arm.
ska vi fortsätta nöta några kast till. Där, låter blicken någonstans, blicken är med höften. Upp med blicken, upp med blicken. Tack, så. Och där. Det blir inte så mycket bättre än sådär.
I mean, this is hard.
Så det är en man behöver jobba med.
You need to find that timing, that synchronization between upper and lower body, all the angles, all that so-called feeling.
Vänster, Tommy.
But that's why we do this.
Känn direkt när timingen sitter.
We practice some more,
När man jobbar
and we
med just
practice
timing
some
och
more.
känsla, varför man jobbar med den här gummibandseffekten som vi försöker få in Tommy i nu. Att du känner när höften, armen och axeln följer med. Ja.
And we are back with Victor again. I'm stressing about the importance of the basics, standstills. Don't be afraid to practice standstills more, finding that timing and synchronization between the upper and lower body, the angles. It can't be stressed enough. But we are moving on with a new element, the X-step and the run-up, and I'm going to show you some key differences between those who throw really far and those more, well, let's call it average throwers. What I'm talking about here is, again, the angles on my left and right foot, about that 40-45 degrees angle on the left foot and that 10-15 angle on the right foot. If I take a more 90-degree angle on my left foot, you can see I'm losing range of motion in my hips. I can't rotate them as much. There you can clearly see that I get, well, but 15 degrees more range of motion when I'm turning my left foot backwards. What I often see when I see, well, more average throwers is when they take the X-step, you can see the angle on their left foot is 90 degrees. When they're reaching out the plant foot, well, as I said, you got a shorter range of motion. Look at Simon Lesath, Seppo Pajo, Eagle McMahon, when they're taking their X-step. Their left foot has about 45 degrees angle, sometimes even more. That gives them a lot more range of motion. Perhaps 10-15 degrees. Sounds not too much, but it makes an extreme difference. Just because you can utilize that movement, that rotation in your hips much more. Those small differences and angles in your foot makes a lot of difference in the power you can accumulate in your hips. 40-45 degrees instead of 90.
Nu snackar vi alltså 0,5 grader. Discorden snackar vi 5-10 grader. Min fot 90 grader. Jag kommer att kunna vrida min höft någonstans, kanske 35 grader. Sen är det stopp. Min fot är 40 grader. Jag kommer att kunna vrida min höft.
Showing once more the differences in range of motion in my hips, just by changing the angles on my left.
Kraftutväxlingar kan man få. Så det Viktor nu ska få
Now we're going to let Victor try this, adding this twist standstill,
Kliv fram, sträck ut arm,
X step.
X-step. Kolla min position på foten.
In the X step,
Härifrån behöver jag egentligen göra precis samma sak jag gjorde när jag gjorde standstill, kliva ut
starting my reach back.
och rotera höft.
What many people have asked me in this sequence is about me rotating the hips anti-clockwise after I planted my right foot. That is only because I over-exaggerate when I plant the foot. All the momentum is dead. I rotate anti-clockwise only to be able to show full range motion. The anti-clockwise hip movements begins from the X step and when I'm reaching out my last step, and when my plant foot, my right foot, hits the ground, I'm gonna rotate clockwise. But for you who has wondered about it and asked, I've answered in the comment section in the Swedish version of this video. And once again, I'm doing it to be able to show full range motion.
Nu såg vi här vad Viktor gjorde, han var lite snabb i höfterna så att nu ställer X-step igen. X-step.
It's a lot of information to take in, having all those angles in the head at the same time, trying to separate the lower body and the upper body, finding some kind of rhythm. Once again stressing about where you're supposed to have your eyes on the disc in the hit and slowing down. Slow, slow. This is me showing that you need to plant your last step to be able to use that power your hips accumulated during your run-up. I always take Usain Bolt as an example. He runs 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. He has a top speed of almost 45 kilometers per hour. He takes 41 steps during those 100 meters. That gives him an average time of 0.2 seconds his feet hits the ground. During those 0.2 seconds, he needs to have enough power in the ground to keep that pace of 45 kilometers an hour. I'm over exaggerating really hard just to show you how important it is to plant your right foot. As I said, I rotate anti-clockwise after I planted my right foot only to show the full range motion. Luckily for us, we don't need to run 45 kilometers per hour in a run-up, so we can do it really slow. There I'm just showing the weight shift as we did in standstill. Here you can see he's trying to find his angle on the right foot to feel where the hips are rotated anti-clockwise to be able to snap them out explosively in a clockwise motion. Talking to him about leaning back, making it harder to move forward. You're supposed to shift your weight between left and right. Once again, this is a lot of information to take in. You've done all the weight shifting between left and right foot in standstill, all the angles between left and right foot, and now we're putting in the X step. A lot of information to coordinate in your head, new movements, new angles. Again, this is why we practice. Practice, practice, practice. People often forget that. This is me showing that short strengthening effect, the rubber band. That is why we weight shift and rotate our hips anti-clockwise before rotating them clockwise. That rubber band effect. I can't break my elbow by slamming my arm straight out because my biceps has a built-in defense. And when I use that defense by willingly flex my biceps, I will get some extra percentage, and that is what we want. And that's me just wanting to have a break. And now we're back with Tommy Backe. And we're going to show you some cheating or some tips to make up for rounding or a somewhat crooked run-up. Tommy has a problem that is, has a really wide run-up, and that looked pretty good. That's because we cheated. How did we cheat to make this run-up possible for Tommy? He had a problem, as I said, having a really wide run-up, almost backing in to the throwing. What that resulted in was him having a little problem with rounding. To solve that problem, we had two lines, that orange line and that black line, to have some guidelines. We often forget that we need guidelines. That's because we're getting snowblind. I'm showing Tommy's run-up a little bit over-exaggerated, how wide it is, and him backing in to his run-up. You can see where my reach back is, where I'm aiming at. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about having to compensate, leaning back, leaning forward, to get the release somewhat in the right direction. Either a Spikeiser or an Anheuser. And there I'm just talking about the straight reach back. What is a straight reach back? All angles I'm showing there is a straight reach back.
i en riktning.
The last one, following the
De
line
ska
of
visa
direction,
riktmärken för linjer.
is
Himla
what we
varmt,
want.
en svart linje.
So following those two lines,
Steg in.
I'm getting a straight run
Dra
up
den svarta linjen.
and a straight reach back. The black line showing the aiming line, the aiming direction where I want the disc to go. And as you can see, my reach back follows that line.
Long reach back. Behöver inte längre än så. Det där skulle jag inte kalla en rak reach back. Kastriktningen ditåt. Det är en rak reach back om jag kastar rakt mot Viktor som är kameraman.
Last two short clips is showing me just throwing a putter, aiming at the basket case. Slow motion. And the second one in normal speed. And we're back in my living room. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who watched the Swedish version of this video, who liked and subscribed and commented. We didn't plan any English version of this since the channel was supposed to be for Swedish players. But since you asked, we decided to make this English voiceover. It's new to me, so I hope you pay that in mind, not judging me too hard for this. And I hope you continue to watch our future episodes, which will not only be about clinics but also lighter subjects such as us just goofing around, but also, as I mentioned in the introduction, mental health, strength training, nutrition. Big thanks to all of you. Like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again in future episodes.
Och lyssna gärna också på mitt avsnitt, biomekanik. Där får ni lite djupare teoretisk genomgång. Viktor, han